Hello. Welcome. Hi, guys. My name's Maggie, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of TrueBit. Thank you so much for joining us today. This fantastic topic, my favorite, AI and stablecoin. And AI stablecoin being a hottest trendy topic right now on the market. And so honored to be here, be a moderator today, and with 4 experts that we can talk about in depth about those topics. So first of all, I want to have a chance to, with audience, to get to know a little bit more about you guys, maybe one by one from Alec.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much, Maggie. Excited to be here. I'm Alec Lovett. I lead the stablecoin business at Coinbase. And prior to that, I had a product at Paxos and spent a long time at Stripe. So come to stablecoins from the payments world.
Raj.
That's Raj. I'm Prabhakar. Don't
Prabhakar.
mix with your Indians.
Sorry, I just know you, so that's good. Yeah.
It's all right. Hi, everybody. I'm Prabhakar. I'm the founder and CEO of OpenFX. We are the FX infrastructure company for the world of AI. We process billions in volumes. We operate 24/7, 365 with sub-1 hour settlements, and we work, around the clock. That's us.
Thank you. Nas.
Hey everyone, I'm Nas, founder and CEO at Bastion. We provide regulated infrastructure to issue, hold, and move stablecoins, focused on enterprises and institutions. My background is security software engineering on core key management systems at Anchorage, Meta for the Libra project, and also at A16Z.
Awesome. I'm Raj Parekh, co-founder, CEO at Portal. We're a stablecoin developer platform. We work with large enterprises that are building remittance platforms, all the way to earlier stage companies that are building all sorts of apps and what I joke, boring use cases in stablecoins. Prior to Portal, I was at Visa for about 7 years and most recently led crypto products at Visa. And I was joking with the team earlier today, but I had a small stint in an AI platform to throw every buzzword into the mix as well.
Okay, thank you so much. And maybe touch up a little bit about our company. TrueBit is a platform that we're based in LATAM and doing the cross-border payment infrastructure between LATAM, Asia, and the US. So I think the topic today is perfect match what we need. And first of all, I want to talk about opportunities. And so what do you guys see about the opportunity between the AI and stablecoin? And what is the, in your view, what does those two technology can be enabling in hands of each other? Maybe
yeah, I can go first. Yeah, I would say maybe as a starting point, just breaking it off into 2 parts. There's what you call autonomous agents, and then you have agents that are usually associated with your users. So I think as a starting point, I think it's really important. Autonomous agents obviously will run on its own, will conduct its own decisions and transactions also. The other one's more of a conduit for the user. And if it's just an autonomous agent, I mean, stablecoins has a huge opportunity to really help influence and build products and services around it. Obviously, the use cases for autonomous agents still kind of early and growing. You see experiments that are happening on Twitter and that are agents conducting trades and analyses, leveraging stablecoins and a combination of crypto as well. On the other side, you have the user, the conduit of a user. That's where they're leveraging not just stablecoins, but a combination of card rails, stablecoins, and beyond. And that's where there's an interesting design space of how do you meld all of it together to make better decisions also. But I think as a starting point, just kind of reframing both autonomous agents, but also agents that are conduits of users also, and making decisions on their behalf too.
I would say that we're seeing AI really come in very strong at every single, I would say, part of the stablecoin journey across. I would say, obviously, the agentic payments, obviously, everyone has been talking about it, agents being able to hold assets, move them, and stablecoins being programmable money. It's only just a natural fit for programming engines to be able to leverage the stablecoin way more than the alternative, especially because the concept of streaming money, being able to obtain a wallet and do a transaction that is a few cents and then just never use this wallet again is going to be a very natural thing for a programming engine. But we're actually also seeing AI coming pretty strong at every single other parts of the stack. I would say at the compliance level, actually being able to have the ability to build risk scores for different wallets and users on all sides of the trades and payments. We're seeing also reconciliation, actually leveraging AI quite heavily, especially pulling information from different data sources and having the ability to reconcile that into accounting systems. So yeah, like pretty broad, I would say.
Yeah, I'm Prabhakar.
Yeah, so here's what excites me. AI agents are about to become the largest users of FX globally in the next 10 years, right? And AI agents don't care about banking hours. They just want to convert currency A to currency B, settle that near instantly, get near instant price discovery and near instant execution. We're getting there. The world is getting built towards it. That's what OpenFX is for, right? And as we enter this world of AI, we're just not building for AI agents, we're also building with them. At OpenFX, we actually use AI agents to use our smart routing to optimize for the fastest and the cheapest pathways to get near instant settlement at all real times, right? So currently, 90% of our transactions settle under 1 hour and about 40% of our transactions settle under 8 minutes. So we're constantly routing using AI agents to optimize for the fastest pathways.
So you're starting using the AI
We're
agent
putting our own products.
already?
Yeah.
Wow, that's impressive. And what about you?
Tough to follow this crew, but maybe I'll take us in a slightly different direction. Kind of the lens that I bring to this is what problems is kind of AI generally causing for payments, and are stablecoins well suited, or stablecoins plus compelling infrastructure well suited to solve those problems? And so at least one lens on what's happening, particularly with LLMs and AI, is there's this kind of fundamental transition on how web content is consumed and how applications are consumed. I'm pretty sure everybody in this room is increasingly going to ChatGPT or Anthropic to get information. They're not directly going to web content. So what's happening is ad traffic is going down, that monetization model is breaking. Traffic is growing up because bots are crawling all these websites. And then we haven't quite seen this yet, but I think increasingly the application layer will get compressed, and you'll book a hotel through an AI versus going directly to that site. And that creates real challenges for payments, like who's paying for web content, who's paying for the application, how is that transaction happening? And I think what's going to happen is bots are paying, and those transactions will be probably hyper-scalable, probably really low value, a bunch of little transactions as they're consuming content, surfacing it in a kind of in an LLM. And so, my mental model is what payment methods are best suited to serve this new paradigm. I think it's kind of undeniable that this paradigm is shifting, the economic model is shifting, and it just so happens that stablecoins are really good at that type of transaction, right? And the question becomes, how do you drive adoption? How do you equip AI platforms and agents with the right tooling so that they're actually able to execute on these transactions? So the work that we're doing with USDC infrastructure at Coinbase, and maybe we'll get into this a little bit more, but I'll just preview it with Agent Kit and with X402, is kind of directly targeted at this thesis.
Yeah, I totally agree with Nas about AI can be used in every single layers. For the company like us, we're creating cross-border payment platform, and we start adopting AI with KYB, KYC, AML process, and not only that, and also the AI agent. I think it is a very interesting topic. We're going there, and also I think we're also facing a lot of challenges out there while we're using the AI agent. So I have the next question for you guys is about the challenges. So let's talk about it from the technical and also the financial standpoint. What is the challenge in front of us? Maybe from Prabhakar?
All right, sure. So the biggest challenge today with stablecoins is not moving stablecoins from wallet A to wallet B or country A to country B. That's just the de facto nature of how stablecoins move. Right? The actual real challenge is in converting those stablecoins to last mile FX into local currencies, because that's what actually businesses need. And not in T+2, T+5, but near instantly. Right? To solve for that, especially as we enter this world of AI, it's not going to be with the current infrastructure that's been built over the last 5 decades. The last 5 decades, we built FX infrastructure for humans, right? Human timescales as well as end-of-day batch processing. Now, if you look at AI agents, they're going to be processing millions of transactions per minute in micro-transactions that needs to basically get near-instant quotations, near-instant execution, like I said last time, near-instant settlements. The current FX infrastructure is just not built for that, right? So at OpenFX, at least, the challenge that we are solving for is price, which means how do you basically get and solve for 1 million transactions of the same trade in real time, right? Liquidity, which is how do you basically get money everywhere at all times? And next is settlement. How do you ensure that when a transaction is settled, it's final and it cannot be reversed?
Yeah, I think that's all the challenges we were facing too. But like,
Yeah, I'd love to piggyback on that because I think we share a core thesis, which is this world of hyper high volume, low value transactions. And just going back to my kind of opening comments, the question is, will these transactions get served by legacy payment methods, or is there a better model? I think there's clearly a better model, but there's a lot of stuff that needs to get built between the agent that we want to execute on the transaction and the stablecoin itself. Stablecoin is great as a payment method, as a store of value. And so just to touch on a couple of things that I think are really critical. One, there needs to be a kind of wallet infrastructure that is customizable for the agent use case. And so what we're building with AgentKit at Coinbase is exactly that wallet infrastructure that allows agents to perform on-chain transactions in the way that we would want them to do to execute on these types of payments. And the other thing that we're building is kind of the core underlying protocols that cut out legacy payment intermediaries and allow for these kind of microtransactions. So we've launched a protocol recently called X402, which coupled with an agent and a wallet allows kind of really simple intermediated USD transactions to unlock web operations, like reading content or accessing an application, right? So when you put the two of these things together and you couple it with USDC or other stable coins, you kind of have the core foundational pieces that allow AI platforms and kind of by extension their agents to start to unlock the type of transactions that we think are right for the AI world.
thank you. What about Nas?
I agree with obviously kind of like other folks on the panel. I'm going to add a few things based on the use cases that we see and the questions that we hear is very much around compliance and / regulation and security. I'm going to start with security. I think that obviously agents are kind of self-evolving machines, and the way I think about the power of smart contract is being able to enforce immutability where you actually need it. And you need it, right? We've seen on crypto Twitter a lot of various AI agent bots, however we want to call them, where people were actually able to take advantage of those AI agents by getting them to agree to send more funds than necessary or send funds when it was not supposed to be the case. And so one thing that what we're seeing a lot and thinking a lot about is permissioning around agents, restricting who you can actually send funds to, how much, what are kind of like the allowances, and based on the different types of actions. Those are things that in a kind of self-expanding world of agents, you can actually draw the outer boundaries, I would say, with smart contracts that are immutable, right? So I think that permissioning and especially policy management around AI agents is going to be a very important topic for everyone building wallets and other sort of solutions that will allow agents to just do more over time. The second thing is around regulatory. So we're a highly regulated company, like others on this panel and in this room. And so there's no definition of anything related to KYC, AML, and the BSA when it comes to AI agents. And for us, whenever we see money being deposited, moved, and used, we still need to tie that to some form of entity, right? And there is no such definition of know your AI agent, right? There is no concept of this AI agent acts on behalf of this person, this entity, this group of people, because they might not. And so one thing that I'm very excited about is just seeing more progress there and just having also regulations pushed, enable a push on the innovation side that allows AI agents to just do more and for us to be able to create wallets for them and process payments and allow them to do more actions without necessarily be hindered by just things that regulations that do not apply to this new technology.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off of what Nas said, I mean, what is a transaction? It's authorization plus settlement. And for an agent, you need to authorize it in some capacity, just as similar to what Nas mentioned as well. And from there, it's, if you ask, and I think even just taking a step back, but an LLM needs context. I can tell an LLM, go buy this t-shirt. That might mean a $5 Hanes t-shirt, but it could also mean like buying a luxury designer brand t-shirt as well. And if you don't have the right authorization controls around it, it might end up spending $1,000 for you instead of the $5 that you actually wanted for as well. And so today when it comes to a Visa transaction, the authorization is actually really important for fraud purposes or chargebacks or reversals. We actually don't have any of that built around stablecoin rails today. Today it's full settlement finality. I send that transaction off. I'm not getting that transaction back. There's no real way for me to dispute that transaction and say, can I get that transaction back or that refund back as well? And so I think breaking down the core settlement, which we've done a really good job as like an industry with blockchains and stablecoins, but kind of layering the authorization layer is something that's still missing. And things like know your AI agent, so that a lot of companies actually filter out bot activity on their websites, and just by basic IP filtering, how do you know like this is actually a legitimate bot that's conducting a transaction versus an illegitimate one? So these are, I think that's one part. And then even I think going back to like the FX and the 24/7 nature of stablecoins today, I was talking to a series of corporate treasurers recently, and their jobs are 9 to 5. They go in the morning, they finish their transactions, they send out all the wires over the course of a day, and then they go home at the end of a long workday. And if anything changed between 9 to 5 and over the evening, that's considered like an escalation now. Like, hey, wait, what just happened? Why is our balance not the same as where it was at 5 p.m. the day before? And so we actually are not really conditioned for a 24/7 operation unless you're a large bank that has a large FX desk. And so we almost are going to need AI and LLMs to actually help facilitate some of these transactions, especially as like it becomes more robust, or if like the price movement moves really fast, or if you actually engage in competitive bidding every single day where you're constantly evaluating, is it easier to move within fiat or stable coins for any given transaction also? These decisions are going to get a lot more complex also, and having co-pilots as part of your corporate treasury operations will start to become really interesting too.
Okay, great. And since you guys mentioning about the compliance, I think another big challenge about like in front of the AI and stablecoin cross-border payments, it will be a compliance. So the next question for you guys is about what is the key compliance regulatory challenges when the AI interact with the stablecoin payments, especially across different countries? So who is actually in charge the transactions, and how do we handle the KYC, the KYB, the AML, and permissions when the agent acts the cross-border payments? So the question maybe start from Raj.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think one is that, I think we'll kind of move the autonomous agent aside here for a second. And, I think in a regulated world, having a sovereign agent might be, a lot more difficult to manage. But I think just kind of staying focused on like, hey, I'm a user, I have my own agent that conducts transactions on my behalf. Ultimately, what ends up happening is that you are KYC'd and you're tied to your agent on that given platform also. And then from there, that's where like the obligation and the compliance part starts. And so it actually doesn't look that much different to what we have today. There might be some extra elements around authorization, like I mentioned before, about what your agent can actually do. But in the whole scheme of things, like compliance is a very slow moving process. Like regulators don't change compliance, that often. And a lot of the same policies that we see will likely kind of exist. There's obviously some broader lobbying and more I think focus groups around what does this world with AI look like with stable coins and payments and beyond. But these things do take time too.
What about us?
We just don't have the answer. That's kind of like the simplest version of it. And obviously, I think that if you folks in in here and in this room will be working on kind of policy and policy efforts, public policy efforts around the topic. The way I like to think about it is, what is the intent? Like, is the intent to actually be able to track the money flow, to be able to dictate, this particular money movement is actually downstream of some upstream money movement that was illicit activity, money laundering, terrorism financing, a hack, etc. So the way I think about it is, if you have agents that actually transact on-chain, actually maintain this kind of this chain of authenticity, essentially, on the movement of funds, in my opinion, it is actually less important to ask kind of like KYC and KYB information, but really thinking about where is the money actually used, right? If you actually have some form of and where actually does it come from? So let's say that you have North Korean hack, Lazarus, exploits some platform, and you actually have a flow of funds that lead to some exchange. You want to be able, at the exchange time or at some point in the flow of funds, to say, we need to freeze the funds. This is actually tied to some hack. So I think that this is the first part, and so long as AI agents are transacting on-chains, I think that we have less issues with that part. The part that becomes interesting is that the off-ramping or like on-ramping part, right? When those agents start touching the traditional financial system, because the traditional financial system has no concept whatsoever of an account that doesn't have a human or a business entity owner. That is just not, that doesn't exist, and I don't think that it will exist for any reasonable period of time within our lifetime, at least. So the way I think we should focus on is trying to dictate what is the transaction look like from some AI agent that transacts on-chain to, and that might be sovereign, to the off-ramping part, because those still need to access the traditional financial ecosystem. There still needs to be some fiat for spendability in many use cases. So that's really, I think, what the critical part is going to be at. What is this kind of like transition and hop looks like?
Yeah, I think we're a very typical case that we're facing this type of challenge every single day. We've been in LATAM for 5 years, and we spent 5 years on applying the license, just the license. So you see like how slow it is in the traditional compliance. And so my curious is like how AI can help us to speed up on applying the license. And even though after you having the license, you have to maintaining the licenses, you have constantly challenged by the regulatory, by the authorities. They will ask you about the KYT. On-chain is easy, chain analysis, those type of companies can help you. But as you mentioned, the on-ramp and off-ramp part is the most hardest part, and the KYT transaction, also KYB, and the bank will be the one also work with you closely on the monitoring every single customer. So I think that's where the challenge is, how AI can help on every single steps. So maybe Prabhat, do you have any solutions?
I don't have any solutions, but I think Nas and Raj captured it very well in terms of the challenges with AI and compliance. Right? Fundamentally, it boils down to the regulators want to know behind every AI agent that's transacting, who is it, right? What is it, a person? Is it an entity? Because AI agents, as they said, don't have any passports, right? So it's going to get more and more complex over the next 5-10 years, right? It is going to get very challenging for the chain analysis and TRM labs of the world in terms of tracking all of these transactions. But that's the world we're entering. It's inevitable. But at the end of the day, if you look at it, moving money across borders has always required compliance, right? AI actually doesn't change that. If anything, we just need to get faster at it. Like, that's the only change.
Well, I think I'm not a lawyer and I'm not a policy expert, and my lawyers would want me to say that. But maybe I don't know if this is kind of directly disagreeing with the comments that have been made, but maybe I just have a simpler mental model, which is I don't know how much actually changes and actually gets more complicated, because I think AI agents are going to be either tied back to individuals or businesses, and kind of the KYC nexus is going to go back to, regardless of how they operate, is from a regulator's perspective, is going to say there's a person or there's a business responsible for this, and they're performing all these actions, but I don't really care about the AI, I care about the company that owns the AI. And I think that construct is going to persist. And so there's probably a view here where, or maybe a reductionist view, where the whole thing is not that much different than all of the challenges we have today. And as a builder in this space, AI can actually make my life easier as I think about the compliance and regulatory and AML challenges, because now there are a whole bunch of options that I can use to solve that. So if I'm building payments infrastructure, or I'm building a payments application with stablecoin, I have all the same obligations, whether agents touch it or not. I still have to KYB, I still have to KYC, but there's this huge unlock in leveraging AI to meet my regulatory obligations more effectively.
Thank you so much. So we talk about like opportunities, the challenges. So next question, I want to talk about the use cases. So where the AI and stablecoin will land first? I think maybe from Alec.
I get a start. I'll try to get specific, and this builds on what I opened with, but I think probably one of the first areas that we're going to see this hit, and we're already starting to see traction about this, is driven by the fact that the monetization model for content is totally changing, right? Like nobody's clicking on ads, they're going to ChatGPT. So if I'm a content creator, I need to figure out ways to unlock transactions so I'm compensated for creating my content. Otherwise, we live in a world where, I mean, maybe there's a counter argument here where just AI starts creating all the content. I'm not sure that's the world we want to live in, right? There's some balance that we're striking here. I think legacy payment providers have tried to solve kind of scalable micropayments for a really long time. They can't do it. The system breaks. Raj can tell you that as an ex-Visa person. Like there have been so many broken attempts. I can tell you definitively USDC plus X402 kind of solves that problem, right? It's not hard to do hyperscalable microtransactions that are basically free and instant in this model. So it's a very kind of tangible use case that's starting to get adoption. It is a massive behavior shift, right? But I think it's a very clear use case, and I think we'll see more of that as, you know, kind of web traffic patterns totally shift. Like search is going away, it's going to AI. People aren't consuming content directly, and we're going to see more and more of that. And then I think this is probably one of the first kind of AI-driven stablecoin use cases to hit.
I'll just quickly piggyback off of that because super relevant. Recently, we were reviewing like our, you know, how are people finding Portal, and you know, one of the prospects put ChatGPT, and we were like, wait, like how did they, you know, and so we actually had to change like and actually add a new filter where we have to add, you know, ChatGPT or some type of, you know, LLM as like a way to surface our brand, and actually it forces us to think about, you know, I think sales and marketing differently. But I think also just to touch on things like more specific use case here, like imagine if you're a large, you know, conglomerate, you have, let's say, 500 entities across different markets, and you have to move money between the US to Brazil. Now, like, in the stablecoin world and the traditional payments world, it's like, well, that's a simple transaction. I just go US to Brazil, that's done. But in the large conglomerate world, there's like tax implications, there's specific routing, there's mapping also. And so I actually have to move that transaction between my Irish entity over to my French entity, over to like back to my Mexico entity, and then back to Brazil afterwards. And so these are like the complicated workflows that someone even just at a large large multinational conglomerate is now thinking through and saying, man, I have to like weave through my entity chart, now figure out the optimal path based on like FX, correspondent banking, and now I have to like make sure that transaction lands in Brazil. Now, like, you know, in the stablecoin world, we're like, just send that over to Brazil, no big deal. But when you now start to overlay like the tax mapping, the entity mapping, it starts to become far more complex. And these are the types of things that an AI co-pilot with like your stablecoin starts to get really, really interesting, where you can have wallets in all these different markets tied to these entities, but in that transaction versus like being floated in the correspondent banking system for potentially weeks or days could all happen in seconds, but also be in a tax compliant way as well. So these are the types of things that we haven't really seen quite yet, but is like the opportunity space that stablecoins have also.
Thank you. Maybe Nas?
Yeah, I feel like obviously everything is just so early when you're talking about two massive technology innovation waves that kind of collide and can actually leverage off of each other. I would say that to simplify things, there are kind of two buckets. The first one is AI being used to support the stablecoin industry and stablecoin innovation. And then on the other side, there are stablecoins that can be leveraged to power the AI innovation. On the first bucket, AI here to really being super strong at supporting stablecoin use cases and stablecoin infrastructure. Again, I think that everything around accounting, I think that very few people realize outside of payments and finance realize how much of a pain accounting is, and taxes, as you mentioned. It's a jurisdiction specific. It is specific to how you treat the money. Is it a cash equivalent or not? So I do think that all things accounting, reconciliation, taxes, AI is going to be massively, incredibly powerful, especially because stablecoins are just global in nature, and so the complexity explodes very quickly across jurisdictions. I would say that on the compliance side, it's actually already massively used. So we leverage, for example, Sardine and other providers to be able to do scanning essentially of different transactions, people, and in some cases we need also to understand the risk that we take as a counterpart of a payment or in some cases that might be a trade. And so it's important for us, for our own compliance and our own risk management and the risk management of our customers, to have the best picture possible on whoever is the counterpart. And so I do think that on the compliance side, being able to manage KYC alerts at scale, which are very much geared towards false positive, because you can't miss essentially a terrorist or like a sanctioned entity. It's going to be incredibly powerful. I think it's going to be incredibly powerful on counterparty risk. I think it's going to be very powerful on like smart order/transaction routing, as Prabhakar mentioned, because I do think that the ability to go across venues, whether it's centralized or decentralized, is not going to be scalable for people. You need to be able to kind of like red out very quickly. And yeah, on the other side, I mean, we talked about it. I think that agents are going to be acting sometimes on behalf of people and entities. I do think that like sovereign agents are going to come, and they're going to need a way to stream money, essentially, just like they stream information. So very, very excited about all of those use cases in kind of both directions.
Thank you. What about Prabhakar?
Yeah, so if your question is who are going to be the early adopters, I think it's going to start with folks on this panel and their companies, right? So OpenFX is an early adopter, like I mentioned. We process billions in volumes, and our smart order routers effectively ensure that it's all done through AI agents, because we can't be processing that level of volumes just manually at this point. And our AI agents are optimizing for arbitrage opportunities, fastest pathways, building our global FX book, while ensuring that it's working after 4 p.m. cutoffs, on weekends, on national holidays, and everything else of that sort. So for us, it's like, there's no way that we can go back, because we're saving millions of dollars by having AI agents. And for me to go back, it's like going back from a smartphone to a rotary phone. Yeah. So that's not happening.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Not only like working with the client or like external or operations, for internal management, we're using AI a lot at every single department, and to speed up, to provide the efficiency without like you have to hiring a lot of people. So that's totally agree with what you're saying. And so we have a few minutes left. So we have like a Q&A section. So we open some questions for audience. If you guys have any questions, you can raise your hand. We'll bring a mic to you. No question? Okay, if there's no question, I think we can close the panel today. And once again, it's my honor to be here to learn a lot from you guys. And thank you so much for being the panel today. And hope the conversation can still be going on after this stage. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.